welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Anastasiya Lavrina. At the invitation of Wang Yi, member of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party and China's Foreign Minister, Azerbaijan's Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov is in China on an official visit on January 28 and 29. The trip highlights the growing momentum in relations between Baku and Beijing as bilateral cooperation continues to deepen across transport, infrastructure, energy, and regional connectivity. As global trade routes are being reshaped, Azerbaijan's strategic position along the Middle Corridor is elevating the country's role in linking China with Europe through the South Caucasus, turning geography into geopolitical and economic leverage. Within China's broader Eurasian vision, Azerbaijan is increasingly seen not simply as a transit state, but as a reliable partner and a key logistics hub between East and the West. At the same time, this expanding engagement carries wider strategic weight as the South Caucasus becomes an area where economic interests, security priorities, and the influence of major powers increasingly intersect. So, how is Azerbaijan calibrating its foreign policy to maintain strategic balance between China, the West, and other major actors while protecting its national interests in an increasingly competitive region? Joining me now from China is Shen Shiwei, CGTN digital journalist, founder of the China Briefing newsletter. Hello and welcome to the program.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, last year, the president of Azerbaijan paid 2 visits to China, and in April 2025, Azerbaijan-China relations were elevated to the level of a comprehensive strategic partnership, marking a significant milestone and reflecting the deepening political trust, expanding cooperation between two countries. And now, in diplomatic terms, how significant is this visit by Azerbaijan's foreign minister, and what message does it send about the current priorities and direction of China-Azerbaijan relations?
Actually, what we have seen from the readout of the Chinese Foreign Ministry about this visit, I think we can summarize in 3 aspects. First is that both sides, especially from the Foreign Ministry level, they are implementing the consensus reached between the 2 presidents. Especially, we know that in 2025, your president have made 2 visits to China. One is the state visit, and the other one is to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, which I also present and there. So I have witnessed all these kind of achievements, especially in terms of the political dialogue, and also especially about this comprehensive strategic partnership, and also about how to facilitate this middle corridor, and what about the role of China's business in this construction, and also in terms of the people-to-people exchange. So, and the second term I would like to use is to enhance this kind of strategic partnership, especially when we're facing a lot of changes in today's geopolitics, and especially the world is not that stable. So facing all these kind of challenges, how should China and Azerbaijan to adjust their foreign policy to adapt to this kind of situation and to better facilitate this regional peace and security, as you mentioned. And for the third part, I think is to enhance this kind of people-to-people exchange, especially we know January is just the starting of the year, and in Chinese philosophy, we would like to make a lot of plans for the incoming new year, and to have a lot of agendas. So this year, especially we know Azerbaijan will host some kind of regional summit, and which China will also send its delegations. So at this moment, it is very essential for both foreign ministers to talk and to have this face-to-face talk and to set this kind of agenda.
Well, that's indeed very interesting, especially because, as you mentioned, this is just the beginning of 2026, and the level of this visit indeed shows the importance of developing bilateral relations between Azerbaijan and China for this year in the future. And as you mentioned, the world now is changing. The global order is changing. There are a lot of changes and new alliances are being formed. So from Beijing's perspective, what makes Azerbaijan not just a transit country, I mean the Middle Corridor, which is a very important part of Belt and Road Initiative, but also as a reliable and strategic partner in the South Caucasus?
I think we can understand the bilateral ties with this term, the comprehensive strategic partnership, which was agreed by the two presidents in 2025 and during the historical visit to China. And we can see during the past decades, the relations between the two countries has been more stable and been lifted to the highest level ever since. So that has shows the political determination of both leadership to enhance this kind of relationship. So that is the number one. So because of the head of the state's diplomacy, the relations between the two sides has go to the highest level ever since. And the one is that facing the geopolitical dynamics, I think the message sent by the two countries are very clear that with both sides, we don't want to pick sides, and China has always respect the strategic choice from Baku, and Baku has always supported the co-interest of China. So on this basis, I think that both sides have expressed this kind of mutual support, especially when the world is not safe, it's not that stable. Both sides have expressed their willingness to be this kind of a beacon in the turbulent times. And we know how that China views the Azerbaijan's role as not only just a transit country, but a more like a strategic partner in this region, and also a very important economic corporate partner in this part, especially as you mentioned about the Middle Corridor. China has expressed its willingness.
That's my next question about the Middle Corridor, which will be connecting China, the Central Asia, the South Caucasus, and Europe. With the Middle Corridor linking, I mean, so many countries together, how important is this trans-regional route for China's long-term trade and logistics strategy?
I think we can combine this Middle Corridor with China proposed the Belt and Road Initiative, in which Azerbaijan is a very important cooperating partner. And in terms of the Middle Corridor, I think it is not only important for Azerbaijan, for China, but also for the regional partners, especially from the Central Asia, from Europe. So that's why we can see in practice, we can see a lot of investments coming from Europe and Central Asian countries. And we can also see from the political side, the European Union, Russia, and also in Central Asian countries, they have put this kind of agenda in their national plan. And also in China's policy making, Middle Corridor is also included in the railway interconnection along the Belt and Road Initiative. So that is the number one. Everyone is paying attention to this one, and everyone will be the beneficiary of this corridor. And the second one is that China has viewed this Middle Corridor is a very strategic way, but also we know there are so many linkage between China and Central Asian countries, and also Europe. And for example, the China-Europe freight trade, and also we know the Arctic Express. We know in 2025, China has launched its maritime linkage with Europe for the Arctic region. So that is one of the shortest and much cost-efficient one. So we think now in today's world, especially when we see the market economy is growing, and we would like to have more cooperation, and also to have this kind of a competition in the market part to make all this kind of transportation linkage more efficient and more beneficial to all partners involved.
So China recently expressed support for the Zangezur Corridor as part of this network. Zangezur Corridor is to connect Azerbaijan with its exclave Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic, a very important part of logistics in the region and have all the potential to become a part of the Middle Corridor. How does Beijing assess the strategic and economic importance of this specific segment of the global project?
Actually, I think from the many statements from Beijing, and actually China has expressed its support and its willingness to have this Zangezur corridor, and maybe in the coming days that will be part of the greater plan in the regional connectivity and the interconnectivity, especially in this part. And from China's part, as I mentioned earlier, Zangezur corridor and also the Middle Corridor is one of the transportation linkage between China and Europe, and we can see in the broader picture the Asian economies and European economies, and also the Central Asian economies, also the South Caucasus region along the route. So I think we have this kind of short-term plan, and also we need to have a much more the medium and the long-term plan to make this corridor more cost efficient and to be more attractive. And we know in this region we need the coordination among the three countries, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and also Armenia. And in the broader picture, we need some more coordination with the regional countries, including Russia, including Central Asian countries. Especially, we know this corridor will serve the interest of all these partners nearby. So that's why, in the broader picture, we need more partners to be in this to be in the construction phase. And China is willing to be part of this construction of the corridor, and China will also always respect the strategic choice among all these partners.
Well, you're saying about the more partners which can be involved in the project, and we have to agree that the region is also drawing growing attention from the United States and other global actors. In the United States of America, let's say Zangezur Corridor is mostly known as Trump's corridor. So do you see China-US engagement here as competition, coexistence, or potentially complementary efforts?
I think we can see all of the terms because in terms of the competition, of course, China doesn't buy the U.S. idea that to define the relationship as a competition, because from China's perspective, China-U.S. relations, we still have this kind of a mutual respect and this mutual benefits and win-win cooperation as the top priorities. And in terms of competition, I think in terms of this kind of economic cooperation, let's see for the companies, enterprises, when they do the business, when they do the logistics, all the related industries, competition is a good word actually. And as I mentioned, the Zangezur Corridor, the Middle Corridor, is one of the important linkage between the East and West, and has served a very important role in Azerbaijan's ambition to be the regional logistic hub. So we also have other corridors to link those sides. So the competition is a good word, and we need to have more like the framework from the political side, from the legal perspective, and also from the economic perspective. We need to enhance this kind of a competitiveness to adapt to this economic cooperation. That is one issue. And for the other issue is about the competition shall be constructive, because China already is the world's second largest economy and is one of the largest import markets for the last 17 consecutive years. And there is a very booming market to welcome all the good products, for example, the pomegranate juice from Azerbaijan. And so in terms of the China-US engagement in this region, I think the constructive competition and constructive coexistence shall be prioritized. That means the US shall not force the regional partners to pick sides between the two sides, because China has already said we respect the strategic choice for all these regional partners, and we don't like our partners to be bullied by the US side. That is obvious. We can see how this US administration is bullying the European countries, especially recently about the Greenland issue. And actually, the NATO and the European Union has already compromised on this issue. We can see a lot of analysis. So in terms of the regional cooperation, for example, Zangezur Corridor and also the Middle Corridor, China is welcoming all the partners to be involved, but all this cooperation shall be constructive and shall not force the regional partners to pick sides.
Here we can see the real example on how the competition between two global powers can actually benefit the region itself if they do follow all the norms and standards, which is, I guess, one of the key elements is a non-interference into the domestic issues, and China has been always following this. I guess another very important element which is connecting our two countries, I mean China and Azerbaijan, is that two countries have always respected the territorial integrity and sovereignty of each other, and even today at the meeting which is taking place in Beijing between the ministers of foreign affairs of two countries, again this element was highlighted as Azerbaijan once again stated its support the territorial integrity of China and Taiwan as a part of China. So coming back to the region of the South Caucasus, where we have here the experience of the post-conflict development, in your view, can economic connectivity and trade integration contribute to long-term peace and stability in the region, actually?
Okay, I think that has reflected the philosophy of China's development path. We know China has always prioritized the security and the stability as the foundation for a sound and prosperous development. So that is one issue. You must have a very secure investment environment, and to attract all these kind of investments, not only from the at home but also abroad. So the security and the stability in this region shall be the foundation for a good and sound development. And in China's philosophy, a good development will also be this kind of driving force to have a more stability in this region. So that has kind of a good cycle in this part. So that's why you see from China's proposed Belt and Road Initiative, China has always prioritized that the political wisdom and the political cooperation very essential. Why? Because with this kind of cooperation, we will lay a solid foundation for a more cooperation and to have this kind of more sound development in economic part. And with all this kind of interconnectivity, we can see, for example, the connectivity of the infrastructures that is more like a hard link, and also about the soft link, which means, for example, the legal framework, how to better facilitate the custom clearance, and also about the environment cooperation, because we know all these kind of economic developments, we need to better preserve and protect the environment nearby. So all these issues have reflected China's philosophy and also echoed by regional partners, for example, like Azerbaijan, because we know Azerbaijan has hosted many important meetings, including summits about the COPE mechanism. So that's has seen we have this kind of cooperation and consensus on how to maintain stability and security, and then we have a good and a very nice development. And then all these issues have contributed to the well-being of people.
Now more about the global changes and the global processes. The recent discussions in Davos about a changing world order and aimed intensified global diplomacy with leaders visiting Beijing. How does China envision its role in shaping the emerging regional and global order, let's say economically, diplomatically, and strategically?
I think I would like to quote a very important statement from China's Vice Prime Minister He Lifeng during his speech in Davos. That means the world cannot afford to back to the law of the jungle, because we know that today's world we can see that the bully has become one of the dominant world, and you see, especially when we see the issue between Europe and the United States on Greenland, we can see this kind of bully and also this kind of hegemony, especially when we see this kind of international landscape. The traditional landscape has been challenged by this kind of unilateral ways, especially what we have seen in Venezuela, and the international law were much ignored, and even sometimes they said, we don't need international law. That has become a kind of alarm for a lot of countries, especially the countries in the global south. So at that time, China has repeatedly that we need to support the UN-centered international order, which has written in the UN Charter that the country's territorial integrity and sovereignty shall be preserved and protected and shall be safeguarded, and also the country's strategic choice is purely its domestic affairs, and no force shall intervene its internal and domestic affairs. So that has become much more important, and especially during the two foreign ministers meeting concluded in Beijing, and we can see that both sides have expressed their support that we need to continue to support the UN-centered international order, and to continue to support their territorial integrity and sovereignty, and especially to enhance this cooperation among the global south. So I think that has sent a very strong signal that we need to stand up against the hegemony and the bully, and we need to enhance this kind of cooperation, especially the multilateralism, and to have this counterbalance to this kind of hegemony and unilateralism, because that is not the historical trend, and that will jeopardize a lot of countries' interest, and that is not good.
To continue what you just mentioned about the cooperation, the global integration, and definitely respect of each country. The United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer is visiting Beijing, the first such visit since 2018, in an effort to reset relations with China. How does Beijing interpret this renewed engagement from Western leaders, and does it signal a broader shift toward more pragmatic cooperation with China?
I think we can understand this trend in two aspects. One is that January has become a very busy time for China's diplomacy, especially we can see a lot of Western countries' leaders are making the states or the official visit to China. We can see, for example, the Canadian Prime Minister and also recently the UK Prime Minister. And previously we can see like the South Korean president, and also about the Prime Minister of Ireland. And later we will also have the president of Uruguay in February. So all these have reflected that the Western countries are paying much more attention to China's role in today's world, especially when the world is facing a lot of challenges, especially like the rising challenges like the hegemony and the unilateralism, and which has jeopardized the current international order. And the second part is that because of this kind of unilateralism, the rising of the hegemony, and these kind of uncertainties, the Western countries would like to enhance its collaboration with China, the world's second largest economy, and also a rising power in the high-tech development, for example, in AI, in in all these kind of related high-tech industries like drones, and also the highly efficient manufacturing industries. Just as the UK Prime Minister has said, in the past years, UK has shifted from the left and the right about the policies on China, but now they should they shall have much more practical and realistic approach to China. So that is has paved a very solid foundation for his visit. So that's why during his in his delegation, he has around 60 CEOs of leading giants accompanied with the delegation, and there will be many business events here in Beijing and other cities to enhance the bilateral ties between China and the UK, and that will set a tone for China-Europe cooperation.
Well, that's indeed very interesting, and we will continue following the developments in that part of the world. Thank you so much for joining Inside Politics today.
Okay, thank you for having me here, and would like to share more insights and opinions.
Thank you very much. Well, as Azerbaijan continues to strengthen its dialogue with China, expanding cooperation in diplomacy, connectivity, and long-term development, the relationship between Baku and Beijing is becoming an increasingly important part of the broader Eurasian landscape. From strategic transit routes to foreign policy coordination, these ties are shaping not only bilateral relations, but also the future role of the South Caucasus in global affairs. We'll continue to follow these developments closely. And now, thank you for watching A News. I'm Anastasiya Lavrina, and see you next time on Inside Politics.